The stages are set for the very first debates of the 2016 year, Thursday, when the Republican presidential candidates square off in South Carolina. Now, based on the latest national New Hampshire and Iowa polling, Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, Dr. Ben Carson, Chris Christie, Jeb Bush, and John Kasich will all participate in the later debate at 9 p.m. Eastern. Rand Paul, Carly Fiorina, Mike Huckabee, and Rick Santorum are slated for the earlier debate starting at 6 p.m. So what can we expect, and is it do or die for any of the candidates with less than 3 weeks from the Iowa caucuses? I'll go to you first on this, Geraldo. Three arguably, I guess you could call them establishment candidates, and then three outsider candidates. Who has the most to lose on Thursday night?
I think, in a way, Rand Paul, who you did not number, has the most to lose by now announcing he won't show up at the undercard. Now, I lament that he's not on the main stage. He has a very unique message. The others, more or less, have the same kind of philosophical, ideological place. He is unique, that whole libertarian thing. You know, the fact that he's not blustering about going and turning the desert to scorched earth, you know, and taking on ISIS and all the rest of it. I will miss him. I will lament his passing in a sense, because I think this is the end of it.
He's not dead, though.
But that personality that you talk about, yeah, we're mourning Rand Paul.
I think
he's alive. He's just not going to the debate.
I don't think he's going any further. That's my point.
But part of the problem is the way he's acting and the way he's behaving right now. It's very unprofessional. He sounds like a whiny baby, talking about how he's going to protest the debate. Be happy you have this platform whatsoever. Geraldo, you may like his message. He was once considered the most interesting man in politics, as Time magazine said. But now what he's selling, America just is not buying.
Clearly.
The libertarian movement has at least, if not died, at least been incredibly stunted. And
let's shift to that main stage, shall we? That's really where the focus is going to be, Harris. All eyes on those candidates. And I do disagree a little bit, Geraldo. I do think there is a very different perspective that's going to be on the stage. I think there are conflicting views in the Republican Party between the establishment and between others like Donald Trump. And that fault line is very, very obvious, Harris. That will be a battle on a lot of issues that we'll see play out.
So the one thing that I'm looking for is who is going to battle each other on stage and who is going to take on the Democrats. I mean, who really does see themselves as somebody who is going to get past the nomination process? Because I think that if voters begin to wake up and pay attention, that will be the question in their minds. They have seen this group fight for months. This is not fresh or new material. Well, I can say that there can be no mistakes. So you almost want to keep your mouth shut rather than say something that's going to get clipped and define you after this debate. It could really explode. But just in the whole essence of who can take on Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, outside of what polling is, because polling is not voting, but outside of what people are saying, who can really take that on and make a difference from what we see now?
So, Melissa, playing not to lose, I think that's probably a good strategy for someone like Trump, who's had a very consistent lead, almost 40% in a lot of these polls. Ted Cruz, though, they're neck and neck, so he has to play to win, because he arguably wants to beat someone like a Trump. But the other candidates, they've got to really play to win to get noticed.
Absolutely. I mean, Marco Rubio has shined in the past in this forum because he's very good on foreign policy. I think Donald Trump gets quiet in these settings, which is unusual for him. And it's too bad that he can't communicate some of his strengths in this sort of setting, in the sense that everybody talks about the Woman Arena example, Woman Rink here in New York, and people who aren't in New York don't really appreciate this, that this is this jewel, this gem in the middle of Central Park. The city had a monopoly on it. You could make a fortune. I mean, you get tourists to come in and skate. They were losing money. It was a wreck. He came in and said, let me take care of that for you. Turned it around and made it this thing that everybody goes to. It's an amusement park in the summer, which they hadn't thought of. And he sells you Trump water for like $6 a pop with his picture on it, just to tell you who has turned this around. It's really, you know, it's an analogy for America, that we've taken this thing that was a gem, that was a layup, you know, that should be #1, that's an easy sell, and we've trashed it. He should be able to communicate, I could turn around America the way I've done this ring. And sometimes, you know, in the debate setting, he's not able to communicate any of that.
Although on the heels of the State of the Union, the president probably will talk about foreign policy, but this debate specifically, I imagine, will be a lot about foreign policy. And there's very different views in the Republican Party about what we should do with regard to ISIS. Who will you be listening to?
Well, I know you say there are very different views, and I think we can debate that. But going back to the main stage and Donald Trump is absolutely unassailable, it seems to me. Donald Trump is the Republican nominee. I think the others are kind of like little puppies kind of yapping at this big dog in the middle. I think that this is basically over. I don't think they have, Jeb Bush has no other cards to play. He spent all this tens of millions of dollars. He's gotten zero traction. People are scornful of him. I think that what they're playing for now is pride. I don't think that anyone is going to dent Trump's armor.
Don't you think Ted Cruz right now is making him go for a run for their money? What I'm looking forward to more than anything in the debate is seeing if the gloves finally come off between Ted Cruz and Donald Trump. They've played very nice, recently taking some little shots at each other. Donald Trump is now playing Born in the USA as a song, opening song, a not so subtle
ask me as a lawyer about that. I think
out how they're going to vote. Is that really? But you know who agrees with what you're saying, at least in part, is Vice President Joe Biden. He's saying today that, you know, it's very possible Donald Trump could be the nominee and could go on and further on even beyond that point. He said he hopes it doesn't happen because he doesn't agree with his politics. That's not breaking news.
Just going back to the Ted Cruz example, Ted Cruz has done everything to get the evangelical vote in the Iowa caucuses. He's going to get shut out a week later in New Hampshire. He's going to be absolutely wiped out. He might make a little noise in South Carolina. I don't think so. Ted Cruz has made a very strategic decision to invest everything in Iowa, and I think even there, Trump beats him there. Trump will beat him in New Hampshire. And then he'll be three for nothing in South Carolina, and I think he goes.
But let's quickly go back to the issues because I do think there are big differences, Geraldo. You have an establishment group, the Rubios, the Jebs, that want to put active boots on the ground, that believed in the Arab Spring in the Middle East. You have a Donald Trump and a Ted Cruz who have a very different perspective, a strong military, but one that is used selectively. You heard Trump say that the last time, $4 trillion, and what did it get us? Also on immigration, it's a hot-button issue. You couldn't have more conflicting ideas between the Trumps of the world and the Rubios of the world. I mean, this is the stuff, this is the battle royale for the heart and soul of the Republican Party, and it will play out on Fox Business Thursday night.
I think that that's going to be a great show. I love Fox Business. I think they did the most competent debate we have seen so far.
Yes.
It's wonderful, and I think that they will repeat that performance on Thursday. I just go back to my main point. These guys have had their best shots at Trump. Now, Trump has said some things about immigration that I find horrifying. I find them hateful. And I love the guy. I've known him forever. You know, and if he modifies his position, I might even vote for him. But the others are all nuanced. Oh, you can't do that. You can't do that. I think even Trump knows he's not going to forcibly deport over 11 million people. President Obama couldn't even deport 1,800 women and children from Central America. He tried. He got deportation orders. And guess what? He chickened out because everybody went all over him.
Well, and
imagine that multiply that by millions.
And here of late, the administration has pretty much buried via the media that it won't be giving that story to all the raids that have been going on to deport people here recently. I mean, the numbers are interesting.
He's deporter-in-chief.
About that.
He's deporter-in-chief.